Hey everybody, Mary asked me to do an example lesson so that if you haven't had experience with a flipped classroom, you could kind of see how it might work, what you might do, give you some ideas of activities you could do, since we'll have students twice a week in Zooms for about 30 minutes, and we don't want them to just be listening. We want them to be engaging with each other and engaging with you and have it be more collaborative and interactive in order to just um, keep students from really opting out, especially on Zoom. It's easy to turn your camera off and try to disengage from learning, so us really getting proactive and making the Zooms interesting and engaging. So just to show you the context of the lesson I'm going to be going through, for ceramics class, I really pared down what I wanted to accomplish into sort of three key buckets. One is I want my students to really learn about ceramic and sculpture artists of the past and present and do some reflection and engaging with learning about them. I want them to practice the process you use before you make a sculpture or a piece of ceramics. So sketching, drawing, collage, we'll be doing different activities related to that. And then the third one is actually building. I was able to find some air dry clay that I'll be having students pick up. So as we go through the process of learning about artists, generating a sketch or design, and then actually building that sketch and sharing it with each other are sort of my three outcomes for the class. If you go to my week 2 lesson, this is the lesson I will be showing you. Basically what the project is, if you go down, you can see I have the weekly focus, the purpose. This is the lesson plan template that we've been using. I just turned it landscape and jazzed it up a bit. But the project summary, or the goal of the project, is students are going to be generating a vessel that, if found on an archaeological dig, would tell the story of them. And to do this, we will explore cultures, how different cultures express identity through vessels. We'll practice planning the work and building it with sculptural materials. My rubric hits on those three parts of learning about vessels, practicing coming up with the idea or ideation, and then actually sculpting it. So those three parts will be used for the assessment. I do want to have check-ins in terms of when they're actually in the Zoom, how I'm holding them accountable. So I have kind of a mini rubric here that I'll be using. If it's an exit slip or an activity, there will be something that each time they're with me, they have to do, and then that gets reflected on Infinite Campus as a formative assessment, which is only 10% of their grade. Really, the big thing is the project, which is the big rubric. So if you go up here, how we would start the project, we would introduce the project before they come to class. So that would be a video that I would post that on the days they're asynchronously learning. It's going to go through the rubric. It's going to talk a little bit about the project. So in theory, they will come to this week with sort of an understanding of the big picture of the project, but hopefully some questions. We will be focusing on exploring the different examples of vessels and how they can be expression of identity or tell a story, is sort of our focus for the week. The reason I'm doing it this way is when I was researching examples of anti-racist teaching, identity exploration is a key one that helps students form healthy identities. So giving opportunity for thinking about themselves and their history and how that is reflected now is an important part of that. So that's why this is worked into that lesson. I'm trying to be more intentional. The other thing is showing examples of people of color who are artists as exemplars instead of just sort of talking about them as oppressed, but really showing them thriving. So in this lesson, I'm really trying to use amazing examples of artists who are people of color to just, again, make that visibility so students feel seen in the lesson if they're not a white student. So that's another thing I should just call out. So my goal is by the end of the week, they will generate a brief presentation to showcase a study on an artist who used the vessel form to tell a story or explore identity. And the purpose is it connects to those three things you're trying to do. We're learning and reflecting on the works of artists from the past and present. We're trying to visualize what the work might look like and build a ceramic work using hand-built techniques. So learning this week will hopefully connect to all those three things we're trying to do. So in terms of how the week is laid out, class time means synchronous. Synchronous is not kid language to me, so I just titled it class time. And then independent work is asynchronous, so what they're doing when they're not with me. The way I start class is doing something called a Jamboard. It is one of the Google app add-ons that you can get. And I just want them to think about how do artists express themselves through artwork. So really open-ended, using the sticky note function to pin some ideas, just super quick to get us thinking about that. And then I want just space for questions. So what are students confused about with the project? Do they understand the rubric? I find it's really helpful when kids ask questions. Usually other kids have the same question. And then I'm going to get them into a group discussion of what is a vessel. So a vessel is a really simple concept. You find it in primitive cultures, that it's basically a form that has an opening in the middle. So it's really, really a simple concept, but it's so ancient that you see it both in the past and in the present. So I've created a question activity that they'll go in breakout rooms and do together of a whole bunch of different, both modern and historic vessels. And I have some questions. I want them to think about, what do these have in common? How are they different? What is the artist expressing? And then how would you define a vessel so that we can create a collective understanding? And then the goal would be after they kind of have a breakout with a couple students, they come back and they share their thoughts, and then they fill in that reflection sheet, and that's sort of their exit slip for the day. So I would put in Infinite Campus, if they did the activity, they responded to the questions, that really simple rubric, it's a 3-point thing. And it's a way to hold kids accountable. If they're not actively participating in Zoom, at least they're showing me they're taking in the information. Again, it's really easy to opt out of Zoom. So this would go on Infinite Campus as an activity that they're doing. So then the next day, trying to build on what we just did, we're going to do a quick 5-10 minute activity where they're going to get up and try to find a vessel in their home and then bring it back to share. Of course, I'll preview, keep it appropriate, people. So then maybe we can have a quick discussion just to remind us that we have an understanding a vessel is a form. It usually has a hole in the middle. It can be functional or not, and we'll just have that reminder discussion. And then I'm going to have them do an artist study. For this activity, just to show you very quickly, I've basically found some more modern artists who use the vessel form in a really creative way. And I will link it on there, but it looks like this. And there are these really engaging videos that if you click on the link, bring up. And the artist talks about not just how they use the shape of the vessel, but also how they use it to tell a story, express thoughts on their identity. So I think that's going to start connecting some of the dots of we're going to be creating this vessel that tells the story of us. How do other artists do this? So we can start getting ideas. So I'm going to pair them up. They're going to watch the video, and then there's questions on the artist spotlight sheet that I want them to respond to. So once they have done that artist study and they filled out the response to some of the reflective questions, they're going to share out to the group kind of their findings. And then I would spend some time just previewing what the asynchronous learning was going to look like. So here's the work for the week. And I'm giving them a task. And that task is they're going to find an artist who uses the vessel form to tell a story or express identity, and they're going to share it with each other. And the goal of this is one that they're exploring artists who are ceramic artists, but the other goal is it's going to give hopefully them some ideas of what they could do for their vessel project. In terms of the asynchronous learning, I recorded a video of me modeling it that they could watch if they're really stuck. I also created something called an ideation sheet. So this is for the kid who's like, I have no idea how to even get started. It gives some helpful resources and also some websites that talk about ceramic artists that they could look through. And then I have an example presentation as well that they can see. So then the rest of the week would be time to work on it with the goal of having it due on Thursday. The other thing I'll just kind of quickly call out before I finish up is that I do have the reflection questions as my sort of check-in to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing on Thursday. But then I also have an exit slip that'll count as that little check-in. And on the exit slip, some things that I want to know about is, did they understand the task moving forward for the next 3 days? Do they feel comfortable presenting to each other on Zoom? That's something I really want to know because I don't want to set them up to not be able to do the task. So if they say no, then I can try to make an appointment and check in. What are you confused about? What do you need support on? And then I have the rubric right here, just making sure they get that they're getting a little score on Infinite Campus just for filling out the exit slip. So again, it's a way to hold kids accountable, and it's a way to meet those 2 scores each week criteria that the district has, because this rubric is very large and it's not going to happen in a single week. So this gives that chance to have 2 check-ins on IC. So that is about it. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on my lesson.